welcome to another episode of Gutter Boys, episode 4. I'm here with co-host Cam. Cam, how you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just ready to talk about some comics, I guess, you know?
Definitely. Before we get into that, though, I want to thank the listeners, as always. We got an email this week, so we're about to read that here about last week's show. This is episode 4. We've been doing it for a month now. Happy month anniversary, man. 1 month.
Thank you. Hey, happy anniversary, Gutter Gang. Thanks for sticking around for a month.
We might not be around for 2. We'll see what happens. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, hey, you never know. Things come at you fast.
Right.
You got bob and weave. Oh, also shout out to Rich, Mike, and Al over at Virtual Pros for the shout out. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike said the next time he shouts us out, we have to pay. I don't think we have that in the budget.
Oh, true.
We'll have to start a Patreon for sure.
Yeah, I'm not paying shit to Rich Mike. Rich Mike's already rich. You don't need more money.
Alrighty, so we're going to get to this email here. Let's go ahead and start it. It's from Darren. Hey there, I'm Darren, another Louisville-based cartoon... Oh, hang on, I can't read today.
Yeah.
All right, let's start this over. Hey there, I'm Darren. Yeah, go ahead.
Go off, son. Yeah,
okay.
Go.
Hey there, I'm Darren, another Louisville-based comics creator, with an opinion I'm throwing at you because you asked for it in the last episode. First, you guys mentioned subscription services for an archive of old comics. Shonen Jump recently switched to that model where you pay like $2 a month and get access to all available chapters of a majority of the series they own. I'm definitely on Team Print Comics because of what I think Cam mentioned about needing to see and scan the panel layouts and things like that. Equally important is the paper it's printed on, the way the ink's set on the page, the actual size you're reading it at. But when money or space doesn't allow you to buy or own 5,000 graphic novels, digital can be extremely useful in finding the things you want to commit to but can't buy print copies of. For the comics that already exist, I can't see a switch to digital for those ever fully working because you're taking the comic out of its context, and context can be everything to some comics. A lot of them are made with things like the paper in mind, or the way a person scans through a book, or what have you. For a digital comic to work well, I feel like it would almost have to be made with that in mind too. I think Scott McCloud made a book on this called Reinventing Comics that apparently he himself says he was pretty wrong about, but it seems like he tried to touch on the subject, and I'm curious on what he, even if he was misguided, initially thought. I think I've said too much now, so whoops, I'm going to take a step back. Sorry if it was too much. Keep up the good work on the podcast. Exciting to keep listening in. Best, Darren. Alrighty, so I wasn't aware of Shonen Jump having any kind of subscription service, but I'm not like the biggest like manga head. Were you aware of that?
I heard some inklings of that, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm not really a big reader of anything, let alone manga.
Yeah, like I'm really surface level. Like I've just finally read Dragon Ball like last year, and that was just after being told that it was like really funny, because I wasn't really a fan of Dragon Ball Z when I would see it on Toonami as a kid, but Dragon Ball is really good, and when you read Dragon Ball, I think Dragon Ball Z makes a lot more sense, of course, so I kind of like that, and I read a couple things here and there, but yeah, I definitely am not like a deep dive like manga expert by any means.
Yeah, I mean, the few manga I have read, it's like, there was this one, I think we talked about it before, maybe not on the show, that's like a horror manga called Parasite.
Oh, yeah. We did. Yeah, you mentioned that before.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like, listener John Bailey, actually, I don't know if he even listens to this, Nano Death, always recommends recommends that I read Berserk.
Oh, yeah. I've seen pages from that, and it's pretty insane. I've never actually read it, but there's definitely some crazy shit going on in that book.
Yeah, it looks pretty wild. I'll probably check it out eventually, but it's like on book 200 or some nonsense like that. So
something crazy, yeah, right? Yeah. Like it's so daunting to even try to get into those things. Even like the animated versions. If anything has over 20 episodes, I'm out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I feel like it's even worse with manga because like, especially if it's like adapted into a movie or something. So like Akira is only like 2 hours, and the book is like, like 5 or 6 massive books.
Right. No, I was actually talking about that with a friend the other day, like how the movie's 2 hours, but it's like over 1,000 pages of story. So,
yeah,
it's kind of crazy. $2 though. I mean, you're not really making too much money, $2 a month on that subscription service. So I would imagine like the creators get a royalty check of pennies.
Well, you got to think
annually.
Grand scheme, right? About like how many users you get plus, whatever ad revenue you're getting from that. I mean, there's a way to monetize that. I don't think it's just like on surface value. I think that there's more to it than that. So I don't know. I think it is a viable business, model, but we'll eventually have somebody who knows more about it on the business end on the show eventually. So yeah, if you're listening to this and that's something that tickles your fancy in terms of doing a deep dive about digital comics and sort of the business dealings of that and how it works for artists and writers and publishers, we'll get to that. That's a gutter boy promise.
There's another part of Darren's email that was actually kind of interesting. About taking comics that already exist and putting them on a digital platform. He mentioned it not working. Obviously, they do this, Marvel and DC for sure. Obviously, the Shonen Jump thing is that as well. So it is interesting, we were kind of touching on it last week, mm-hmm. Comics that were already made to be printed, for them to be translated over, maybe it wouldn't have the best, translation to a digital platform. But if you're making the comic with the platform in mind, you can definitely reinvent the wheel there to an extent. So I agree with you there, Darren. And Darren right. is also another cartoonist as well, as he mentioned. And I know he's working on a book right now, mentioned trying to go to SPX with it. So so what I've seen from the work, that he's posted on his Instagram, I'm not sure what it is, but if you just search Darren Vogt, that's VOGT, you can find it. Some of his process pages are cool, and I'm looking forward to whatever he puts out. So thanks for your email, though, Darren. It was awesome for you to write in.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. We appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get to hang out at this year's SPX.
Hey, dude, do you ever put hashtags on any of your posts on social media?
No, absolutely not, no.
Yeah, same here. Have you ever tried it, to be honest?
As a joke, yeah.
Right.
Like I'll just make up very long hashtags that are nonsensical, of course.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what I've done too. It's one of those things that I see it works for people, obviously, because when it comes to the amount of likes, they're triple, quadrupling.
Yeah, but does it though?
I don't know, man. No names mentioned, but there's some people that I've seen use 40 hashtags and their follower ratio is just crazy through the roof. Not to discount their work, because obviously they're talented as well, but it kind of just makes me think how much of that is people stumbling across your work randomly because they're following certain hashtags like illustration or drawing or comics. So not to take away from their work, but
No, I mean, I know a lot of people that use hashtags, and some people it works for them. Others, it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
You just have half a fucking post of just hashtags and you got 20 likes. And I don't think that was worth it.
No. And and certain people try to be slick with it and they do the ellipses and you have to, you expand it and it's their caption. But we see you. We see y'all.
I think that the hashtag stuff probably helps, but to such a minuscule degree that it's not even worth it.
Well, even if it is a or if they don't really, buy anything or it's just a random it's an empty it doesn't do anything in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've talked about this
right.
in terms of what does social media numbers mean in terms of monetization or income, and there's no relationship to the two. So,
but also though, I mean, you do see a lot of people. I don't know. I feel there's a lot of people that are able to get work because they're bigger on social media. Some of these artists have accounts that have hundreds of thousands of followers, millions in some cases. And I don't know. I think that you could turn that into...
Yeah, but now everyone
I think you could turn that into monetization. If you have that many followers, you're probably going to sell more. Inevitably, right? I don't know. I mean, maybe not.
Maybe. I mean... on surface level, you would think so, but I don't really think that's the case. And I'm basing that off of people I know who do have 20, 30, 50, 100K followers, and that shit does not translate because they're still struggling for paying bills,
Yeah, fair enough.
So I don't really think it's to a degree maybe that when people not familiar with it would see stuff like that and think, oh, they're doing really, really well because they have 120K followers. So that means they're getting their bills paid and they have a lot of spending money and they're just flexing left and right. It's no, it's all a show. they're fucking broke.
Yeah.
Trust me. They're fucking broke as shit. So, I don't know. I don't think that should really affect how people, interact with them or purchase their stuff. In a perfect world, people working artists would be able to make a living wage regardless of, whatever, instead of having to constantly plug themselves into social media and constantly have to just like scream into the void, hoping that, you know, one of these millions and millions of people staring at their phone will give a shit. But, yeah, the reality is that's not the case. We have to do it. We have to do it. We have to fucking constantly just do this game, I guess. It's just really, it's annoying. That's why I've given up on that whole thing. I'm just like, no, I'm just going to post at my own rate and, you know, at my own pace when I want to show something that I'm actually interested in showing, instead of having this foreboding feeling of constantly needing to do it. Like I have some sort of like fucking third world grandma fucking shaming me passive aggressively, you know, making me do stuff that I really don't need to or want to do. So.
Right. No, definitely. And I used to post like a lot more, and now I just post, you know, a handful of times a month. Yeah. Now I'll, you know, post a bunch of shit in my story, but as far as like, you know, a lot of that stuff's not even my own art, you know, it's just like stuff I see or what I'm looking at. Right. But as far as like actual post, yeah, it's just a handful of times a month now. But yeah, I used to feel like I had to keep up with the Joneses in a way, but yeah, I don't give a fuck now.
Yeah, but exactly, because keeping up with the Joneses, it's like you tend to forget that the Joneses are fucking broke, so you're keeping up with really nothing of value.
You're running a rat race at that point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You are pointless rat race.
You're the proverbial dog chasing your tail, and you are you are never going to get that tail.
It's fucked up, man. What a racket we're in.
Yep. It's good. It's great. That's really good. I saw you were working on some new pages. What's that for? Is that just a new book you want to?
Yeah, that's the book I'm going to bring to Chicago Zine Fest. I'm putting out 2 books this year.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that's my plan. Like, I had this book pretty much like almost done. I wanted to put it out last year because I just wanted to, it was kind of like egotistical, man. It's called 20 because it was originally going to be 20 pages long. And I just like looked at the amount of pages I released last year and I'd put out 80 and I was like, man, I want to just really put out 100 pages. So I was just going to do like a little compilation of scraps and it was going to be called 20. But then like, I was just like, man, this is stupid just to release it for that. And I wasn't really like, I was just putting stuff to put it out at that point. Mm-hmm. And that's something that like you do when like a rock star dies and the family needs money. You know, that's that shit nobody wants to see.
Right.
But gets put out because it's like a cash grab. And not saying that I would even have a cash grab, but it just didn't feel genuine.
Yeah.
But I am keeping the name. It's going to be more than 20 pages at this point. But it's going to be kind of like the first, or I guess the second issue of Vacation, where it's just little strips and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then in the fall at SPX, I'm putting out Vacation 3, which is actually just at this point right now, it's just one long story. So, yeah, I'm doing this book, which is just a bunch of little stories. And then I've got one really long thing coming out in Vacation 3. It's going to be like 24 to 28 pages at this point. But yeah, no, I was just working on a little strip for the book that's coming out in May, though.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Okay. I see you. I see what you're doing. All right.
Yeah, are you working on anything new for the... I know you're working on stuff that, you know, you're not writing, but are you actually going to have anything, like, new that you're doing yourself for the show season this year, or just kind of bringing some old stuff?
I'll for sure have 2 new things for SPX, maybe 3. One will be the anthology that I'm doing with you.
Right, yeah.
And the other is another anthology. Well, not an anthology, sorry. It's a collaboration with my buddy Eric. He runs... Really Easy Press out of Seattle. He used to live in Chicago. It's a risograph publisher. I'm sure risograph stuff will be something that we will talk about too, because it's very interesting.
Never done it, but really want to.
Yeah, I feel like risograph has come into the especially small press comics arena.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Pretty strong, and I think that's just a reaction to digital comics and digital media in general, and how risograph offers a pretty affordable alternative to print, but still retains a lot of the quality that you would get from stuff like screen printing or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, more time involved processes. My brain's fucked right now, but any kind of print process that requires a lot more time and like facilities and all that. Like risograph, you can do all that in a little machine and it's pretty great. But yeah, so I'll have that stuff. I'm trying to finish this Ashcan, that thing I'm doing with Aubrey, and what else? There's something else and I can't remember now. Damn it. Yeah. I don't know. I'll have other stuff out.
Did the volume 2 of Sweaty Palms ever come out? I know you showed me that strip last year. It got funded.
Yeah,
so
it got funded. I think it's just a matter of it being fulfilled, the orders being fulfilled. I'm pretty sure the book got printed. I'm the last person to really talk to about that because that's all Sage.
Right.
And they've been having a rough year. So is
that Silver Sprocket? Is that
no Silver Sprocket is some unrelated thing out in San Francisco. That they have nothing to do with that.
Gotcha. That's where I met Sage at the Silver Sprocket table, so I didn't know if they were the ones doing Sweaty Palms or not.
No, it's Sweaty Palms is entirely independent. Sage is the editor this year. I forget who was the editor last year. Somebody in Chicago too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we'll see that probably in fall of this year. I don't know. I mean, they were on a timeline, and now that timeline's out the window. So I don't have a good answer for that. So I don't know.
That was the one that you did the autobio story for, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good story, man.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I
read it on a phone. Going back to last episode, I read it on a phone.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to check it out.
Well, you'll probably you'll see it eventually. I don't know when, but you will eventually. I have like so many comics that I've done in the last 2 years, and just like they're just sitting somewhere. Like no one's read them. The only people that have read them are the 4 or 5 friends that I will share that stuff with, via PDF or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's like part of the game now. I'm any comic that I work on, I kind of just work under the assumption that no one will fucking read it or see it. And that's just part of the fucking grift, man. That's just this is how it is sometimes.
I feel like I'd make work with all intentions of it getting out. Like, of course, I have stories that I scrap, and there's stories that people don't see, but anytime I work on anything, I have like every intention to make sure that it gets put out, even if I have to self-publish it. Because I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have, a few small publishers put my stuff out, but the majority of my work has been self-published. So I guess I kind of dictate when or if it comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, obviously, when I make work, I would like for people to see it. I would like for it to be published or printed somehow by me or by a publisher or what have you. But there's a lot of stuff I've done that just hasn't been printed. Like I have that Akira Hokuto story that I did for Hidden Fortress Press, Screwjob.
Oh, for Screwjob.
And that was, I think, 3 years ago, and it'll probably never be printed.
I thought that was because I know Blake's got a piece in there as well. Yeah. And he was saying that he thought it was supposed to, because I know Hidden Fortress shut down for a little bit or went on hiatus. And I think that they're back and rolling. So who knows? It might show up.
They're back, but Paul, who's the main dude at Hidden Fortress, he also, in between his insides exploding, he also bought a screen printing business. So now he's just doing that full time and doesn't really have time to print comics. And I don't blame him. Like you're making money to fucking support you and your family. So,
right.
I'm not going to be mad at a guy supporting himself instead of like spending.
Put food on the table.
Yeah, right. Instead of spending countless hours printing, 100, 200 copies of some book that he might sell at SPX, one time out of the year. So I don't really blame him for it. And eventually I'll probably compile all of these unpublished books or comics or whatever into one zine and just sell it. We'll see. I mean, it'll be stupid because like none of them have anything to do with each other. They're all over the place. It's
No, you can get away with that though, especially in comics, man. Especially if you sell it under the guise that it's kind of like bits and pieces.
I guess so, but it's also just like I don't care. I just don't care. I don't really. It's like, to me, it's just like reshowing old work. I'm not going to go and print out like drawings I did 6 years ago and try and sell them. It just feels cheap, and I'm not interested in that work anymore. So why would I show it off that way? So
well, if you've got it, from I don't know, if you feel comfortable about it.
Yeah. I mean, I should use it, but also my stubborn brain is like, this is old. Who cares? It's done. Get over it. Move on to the next comic. And that, I mean, I don't want to get stuck and hung up on shit I did 2, 3, 4 years ago. I'd rather just be beelining it for what I'm doing next. What's the next book that I'm working on? What's the next comic that I'm planning out? What's the next collaboration that I'm doing? Like, that's really the only thing that keeps me going doing this. Because if I constantly just, was stuck on the past about all the past work I did and, you know, where it went, what happened to it, I wouldn't do shit. I wouldn't be making any new work. You know, I would just be stuck in this dumb rut, just feeling sad for myself. And I already do that enough as is. I don't, you know, I just got to keep working. So I don't know. I'll maybe revisit them. But I mean, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking to myself, absolutely not. No one's ever going to see those books. So yeah, I have new ideas and new things that I want to work on, new approaches to the medium that I'm more interested in now. Like I look back at like most of that stuff that isn't printed yet, and it's just like, this is not good. This does not hold up at all to the stuff I'm doing now. And that's not even me saying, oh, I'm a great comic artist. I'm just saying, to the level I'm working at now, this does not hold a candle to it.
No, and that's a fair reason not to put that out there.
Yeah, it's just embarrassing.
If you don't feel like it holds up.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And I think that it's just one of those things that if you felt comfortable about something, you might put it out. But a lot of stuff, you know, you can leave in the past. Like I would never reprint some old books. There's one book I put out last year that I would never reprint. Right. You know,
I mean, it's
you know, it's
great if you're Justin Timberlake and you can make an entire fucking career off of some shit that happened, you know, 20 years ago. Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You fucking Britney broke up with you. Let's make 50 fucking albums about it. Cool. You know, like that's so fucking sad to me. So like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be this fucking sad ass dude that just like, just mopes around about it. There's some shit that happened in the past. I just want to work on new stuff and just like move on with my fucking life. I don't know.
Well, let's say that you actually became like a super successful comic artist, cartoonist. So at the end of your career, you know, your publisher wanted to put all that old stuff out, kind of like how bands put out like B-side and live collections once, you know, they're long past, you know, done.
Yeah.
Would you allow a publisher to put that out even though, you know, you weren't necessarily going to put it out yourself? Let's, you know, just, you know, in theory, let's just say that somebody wanted to put all this stuff out. Would you let somebody do that?
I mean, it wouldn't be a matter of me letting anyone do anything. If you put enough money in front of me as a publisher, I will say yes.
and
I mean, that's in an industry that does not pay well at all.
Right.
If you pay me well, guess what happens?
Yeah, I'll do what you want. You know, it's exactly. So funny because, like, you know, I grew up a punk, man. No, not really. But I mean, I was involved in like the DIY culture scene. And I guess, you know, being a cartoonist, you still are. But it's so funny because when, you know, you're 15, 16 years old, you're like, fuck sellouts, man. But it's like once I hit 20, 18, 19, 20, I'm trying to sell out. I'm trying to sell out today. You know, I don't care if I have to sign away the rights to my firstborn child. You put that money in front of me and I'm signing on the dotted line. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, when we talk about, you know, selling out, big air quotes, you know, what that means, I don't think saying yes to a publisher that wants to print your old work is selling out. I don't really count that as selling out, right? Like that's
selling out to you in comics. Like, what do you think that would be?
Selling out is basically being willing to bury your contemporaries just for a paycheck.
Oh, yeah, I didn't view it that way.
That's selling out.
I just looked at it as like looking at your work as a way to get money as opposed to what you necessarily want to do. That's what I always viewed selling out as.
Yeah, no, that's not what I think selling out is. I think selling out is, in the broadest sense, putting people that were there for you since day one and throwing them under the bus the moment you get the cash. That's selling out to me. And that, to me, growing up in the punk scene was what selling out was.
Oh, okay.
You know, you getting paid by like a label or getting paid by a publisher, and you're not actively harming the people that got you to where you're at now. And if anything, you're using that platform to promote those that got you on the ground floor. That's not selling out. That's doing the right thing. But there are people out there that will happily just bury their friends and contemporaries and people that were responsible for getting them into the door of whatever field they do and supported them and just tossed them aside because the paycheck was big enough. And that's selling out to me. Yeah,
that kind of selling out sucks. But like when it comes to, I always just had the viewpoint. It was like, oh, Green Day put out a record on a major label. They sold out. They went pop. They sucked. So I always viewed that as selling out. And when it comes to that kind of selling out, I'm all game, baby. Cut me a check.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what those guys did behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah, me either. I wasn't a huge...
I don't know. They could have very well fucking threw somebody under the bus to get that. I don't know.
Probably just join the Illuminati.
That's gonna say they probably fucking had to crush a baby skull while raping its corpse or some shit like that. Whatever those fucking reptilian people do in their high rise buildings. I don't know. I don't know how they live, but that shit would not surprise me.
Oh man, are you working on anything right now? Are you drawing any this week?
Yeah, I gotta finish the cover for this ash can.
Okay.
It's basically the pitch for this book. And once I'm done with the cover, then I got to work on the, all the little bullshit interior stuff that you don't really think about when you're making a comic. And
the worst part.
Yeah, the worst, just the fucking tedious stuff. Just the minutiae of the things that you never would have thought about when making a comic. At least on this scale. It's like when you're making a zine or a self-published comic, it doesn't fucking matter. You don't have to put any information in it or whatever. Or fine print nonsense. You don't have to worry about it. You just put your name, the content, and you fucking Xerox it, fold it, staple it, and you're done. But,
how many pages do you got for this thing?
The ash can only has, I think, 6 to 8 pages. I can't remember now.
Okay.
But, yeah, around there. It's not many. And it'll have some additional stuff like character design, script information, the overall synapses of the story, that kind of thing.
Are you doing it digitally, or are you actually drawing like analog?
The whole comic that I've worked on so far for this has been digitally, and it's actually the first time that I've worked on an entire comic completely digitally. So it's been an interesting learning process.
Are you drawing on a tablet, or are you...
I got this tablet called an XP Pen 15.6 artist series tablet. Okay.
Is it like a touch screen? Like, or is it like a... Okay.
Like a little pen or whatever. Yeah, it's basically like a less fancy version of the Wacom, whatever.
Yeah, right,
tablet. It's like a less fancy version, but it was only like $300 compared to the $1,200 or whatever ridiculous amount you have to pay for those Wacom tablets.
But is it one where you're drawing on the screen, or is it like a controller for your monitor? Oh, okay.
No. Cool. You're directly drawing on the monitor, and that's what I do.
Yeah, I need to get one of those. I just have like the tablet that syncs up with my monitor.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. It's really awesome. In the last like 5 or 6 years, the market has been growing more in that technology is getting to that point where companies can now provide sort of, more affordable options for artists that want to use these types of tablets. Because, Wacom, what is it? Is it Wacom or Wacom?
I've heard both, to be honest with you.
Well, all right. So Wacom, they've pretty much run the market for the last 10 years.
Yep. That's what I've got.
And they that's why they're so expensive. They don't have any competition. It doesn't fucking matter. They can just charge as much as they want. And most artists don't have $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 just lying around to draw on. So you see more and more of these companies now popping up offering cheaper solutions, and obviously they're not going to be near that quality, but they work, they do the job. They're exactly what I need to do what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get some job at fucking Pixar, right? Like, I'm just trying to draw a fucking comic on a tablet. That's it. So I'm glad now that stuff like this is available to people like me who initially were just absolutely like grandpa angry about digital. And just did not want to fucking draw digitally. Thought it was, a sham and ruined the whole creative process and yada yada yada. And it's just like, now it's like, oh, well, I can see why people do this now. It's like way easier.
It's cheaper. It's so much cheaper. Not having to buy Bristol and fucking pens.
It saves space so much. I don't have to fucking constantly buy new portfolios just so I can fill it up with pages that absolutely nobody's gonna buy. So it's a huge help. It's been a really huge help, but there's got downsides too, obviously. So, actually, this is something specifically that we should talk more in depth about, digital versus analog in terms of drawing. Since last episode, we talked about digital versus analog comics and reading them. So this would be cool just from the other side of the table, right? How these funny books are fucking made.
Right.
So, we can talk about that more, in the next segment. So let's, this is actually probably a perfect time to take a quick break. So let's go ahead and do that. And when we come back, we'll do a deeper dive into digital versus analog in terms of making comics as an artist, or, whatever you do with comics.
We'll be right back. Now, back to our program.
back to Gutter Boys. Before the break, we were talking about analog versus digital when it comes to making comics. And JB, you kind of alluded that this was the first project you've done extremely, like, fully digital, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the current thing I'm working on, it's 100% digital, and it's pretty great. Not gonna lie, it's super easy. I really like the fact that I can just fuck up as much as I want.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter. It's like, fuck, no wonder so many like new artists are like so amazing. It's like, yeah, of course. And you just make as many goddamn accidents as you want. It doesn't matter.
And you did everything else. Like, this was your first time doing everything digital, or have you actually kind of toyed with it before? Or
No. I mean, the only amount of digital work I ever did was to color stuff.
Right. Yeah, I've been working digital now for, I guess, the past like 2.5 years. My first like 6 or maybe 6 to 8 mini comics that I did were all like analog, like pen and ink. I was using like Faber-Castell markers and pens, but I just went digital because what it is with me is my line work is so shaky as is. I can't draw a straight line to save my life. Even if I like draw it with a ruler, it still looks fucked up somehow. And it's just because my hands are just naturally shaky. And the reason why I like digital is because also I can't draw really tiny. Like even if like the nib was really small, like it was really kind of difficult for me to get like facial features on like a smaller shaped head, for perspective of the page. Mm-hmm. And digital just allows you to zoom in completely to where even if something's only going to be an inch on the page, you can make it take up your whole fucking monitor. So it's so much easier for me to draw that way, compared to actual just like, pen and Bristol or, just paper in general. But that's, I haven't really looked back since then.
Yeah. I mean, that totally makes sense, and I don't blame anybody for making that jump. Just because, just fuck, I don't have to like worry about whether or not I have enough blue pencils.
Yeah, and do you ever like, because how long have you been working on this book? Like, since you've been working digitally, is this like a 3-month more process at this point?
Thereabouts, about 3 or 4 months, yeah.
Right, so like, it's really like fucked up, because I will draw, like with pen and ink. Dylan got me some of those Posca markers, so like I've been having fun with those. I don't think I'll put anything out, using regular ink and paper again, but I will still draw with like your traditional tools. But it's really funny because like I found myself just being really dumb and doing like the pinch zoom on a piece of paper the other day. Have you done anything like that?
Wow.
It was so bad, man. But yeah.
I mean, I haven't gotten that bad yet.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to zoom in on this piece of paper and this fucking ink drawing. But yeah, it was just like a little hiccup. I was just like, oh yeah, you can't do that. But no, I really love it. I mean, and also like, like you said, you can just fuck up all the time. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the new book, is I'm trying to like experiment more with my style. As far as like, I'm trying to use more color holds, and I'm also trying to play like with arrangement. And with digital, you can just click and drag that shit around. Like, you don't have to scan it in and then, put it into Photoshop and do that. Like, it's all just instantaneous. It's just really fun to kind of experiment with page layout. Like, I'll never go back at this point. Do you think you'll go back?
Well, yes. I mean, on certain projects, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'd be really nice, you're kind of talking about it all the first half of the show, like having like a portfolio. Like, I don't have any original artwork anymore, and that kind of sucks. But also, it's just the trade-off, I don't have anything, original to sell. Not that anybody would buy that shit, but...
Well, yeah, I mean, why do you want to have physical drawings around with you?
I guess, I don't think I'll ever have kids, but let's say, when I'm dead, like, my life's work's not going to be on a flash drive, It would be nice to have something tangible. I mean, I guess the books would be, the physical side of it, but, there is something about... Even though it sucks, there is something about like looking over at a stack of completed pages, knowing that you did that. But also, it could be terrifying, know that you spent that much time doing that.
Yeah,
so
I mean, the only reason why I would even continue, using paper and ink is if I knew the project had some support behind it or had a future behind it, so that I can have, these originals that I could ideally sell. That's really the only reason why I know anybody that has switched over to digital
right.
continues to do stuff on paper, because they just know that's just additional income that they can make
down the line. Yeah, I was reading an interview, or maybe it was like, I don't know, Simon Hanselman was saying that he was keeping all of his original pages because he was setting up his retirement fund. So,
okay.
And he said he's going to sell them later down the road. Makes a lot of sense, though. And that's the only thing that I think that, traditional analog comic making has over digital is the fact that you do have original pages. And some of that stuff's just really cool to look at. I mean, all of it is. I get kind of just, it doesn't matter what I'm looking at, but just seeing like original art from comics just does something for me. And it could be, the worst comic in the world, and I would still like find a way to appreciate like, the whiteout that you don't see in the final printed book, or, how fucked up the lettering was and how you could see that it was corrected and how something wasn't erased fully. There's some kind of charm to seeing those original pages that is completely gone with digital. Like, what, do you just keep the layer in there? Like, where do you put the pencils under it?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, looking at old Silver Age comic art for sure does it for me, because you do see a lot of process stuff that you wouldn't really have known otherwise. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, it's gone from the original printed version.
Right,
so
just like tape and white out and cut out chunks and retaped parts and just, like all this assemblage stuff. Even though when we're working digitally, we're doing the exact same thing.
No, definitely. Because the process is still there, but you just don't have you have the ability to completely cover it up from inception. Whereas a physical page, it's going to be there, warts and all, and you fix it all in post-production. Right. So I guess like with digital, I mean, yes, there's post-production. Like you said, you're at the point in your book right now, like the shitty part that nobody wants to do, that nobody thinks about. But really, you're doing a lot of your post. I think that, well, personally, I do a lot of my posts like while I'm working. Usually when I finish a page digitally, it's pretty much done until I have to like scrub them over at the end and just make sure everything's where it needs to be. But yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier to complete a page and like actually have it finalized as opposed to when I would work physically.
Right.
Because you could always find a way to go fix something, or, if you fuck up, you can just hit, last and it just, or undo, not last, undo. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you ever bring I've looked at your original art at your house, but I mean, do you bring it with you to shows?
I used to. Mm-hmm. And every year I regret it, because I don't know. It really depends on the show. Some shows are really good about selling original art. So it really depends on where you're tabling at and knowing what the market is there.
Right.
Because each convention has its own culture, right? Like what sells and what doesn't. You have a lot of comic, and this is so fucked, right? Because you would think across the board, oh, it's a comic convention. They're all comic conventions, so comics are going to sell them. No,
not at all. It's like the least selling thing,
right? The shows that do sell comics the most are usually like the small press ones or the events that have no celebrity guests.
Yeah, because the celebrity guest shows, it's all about like the toys and the fucking photo ops. Like, you're going to see people with comics there, but I guarantee you there are more non-comics booths than there are comic booths at those types of shows.
Right. And just like, if you're going there with your friends or your family or whatever, you're probably not going to go there looking for comics. You're probably there to meet some guy that was in Thor or
Kevin Sorbo from Hercules.
Right. Or from like some show that you used to watch as a kid, or you want to, and if you are into comics, I understand this because I do this too. You're probably just going to sit in the aisles looking through long boxes.
Yeah, definitely. And at that point, like, it's not even worth it because those types of shows cost like $20 to $30 to get in. So it's not really worth paying $20 to $30 to see a bunch of long boxes with like first appearances that are marked the fuck up. Yeah. That's not really what I'm looking for nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that I know that dig through long boxes are just looking for stuff to, fill out holes in their collection, not necessarily like the top tier jewel, fucking gem pieces. Like first appearance of Wolverine, yada, yada, yada. Right. Of course, those guys are going to have those on sale because it's like kind of required to do that.
Yep.
But they're also going to have hundreds and hundreds of long boxes of like 50-cent, $2 books that are perfectly, all readable, all in pretty good condition, and have, some really quality stuff there that you probably would be interested in picking up. I'm like, me and a couple of my friends, I know Buster is like this. We're really into digging through the really cheap boxes and finding some of the weirder books, like
yeah, definitely,
like the small press stuff that came out of the 80s from the black and white boom. And just finding just the most bizarre fucking shit that just never survived past 2 issues.
Like First Comics, I remember that was an imprint.
Or Eclipse.
Eclipse, yep.
Yeah, a lot of those.
That was one with the E. There was a lot. That's what I do too. I was actually going to ask you if you've been dive. I used to pick up any kind of like 70s or 80s DC stuff just because I liked the way that it was printed. But now I'm really selective. I'll hit those like 50-cent bins and get like, if something is absolutely just like a primetime example of like 90s trash, I might like pick it up for entertainment value. But yeah, I just look for like weird like 80s stuff like you mentioned there. And then you'll find a lot of indie stuff actually from like the 80s and 90s in there too, because nobody bought it back when it came out.
Right.
But besides that, I'm really only looking for issues of Nancy at this point, and those are pretty high dollar. Kind of sucks trying to collect those, but
yeah. I mean, but to go back to the original point, I mean, it depends on the show you're doing, and if you know you're going to have a lot of traffic, it doesn't hurt to have like at least one portfolio.
Right, get some extra income in.
Not even just for income purposes. I would say it's also to just if an editor walks by and is checking out your stuff, they probably want to see your pages. Now, don't get me wrong. This approach, if you're an editor and you genuinely do this to look for talent, you're a fucking idiot. All right. If you're honestly going to fucking Comic Cons in 2019 looking for new talent and fucking browsing through tens of thousands of people just so you can possibly find some person that you can like tempt with some empty promise of like maybe getting a book or maybe getting an email about maybe X, Y, and Z, whatever fucking nonsense. You're wasting everyone's time, including your own. As an editor, I'm just saying. Or if you're involved in any way in making comics and you're doing that, it's a waste of time. There's this new thing, I don't know if you heard, it's called the internet. And you can find literally anything on there, including comic artists. Really awesome, amazing comic artists. And, I don't know, start there. Look at their Instagrams, look at their websites that they fucking pay $30, $40 a month to maintain, so assholes like you cannot look at them. I don't understand that. Like, people constantly told me for years, just like, oh, you gotta have this stuff and this stuff because you never know, man, when these editors are gonna talk. And it's just like such a dated understanding of art. And it just reminds me of a class I took in 2011, and the guy, Richard, great guy, really, really sweet dude, but you could tell he hadn't updated his syllabus in like 20 years. So, we were learning about like, slides and like carrying a physical portfolio and walking into a gallery and like, talking to the representative there and showing them your work. And you're just like, no fucking human being does that in 2019. And no one did it in 2011 either. By then, that was a very dated practice. So, everything is now digital. Everything is done through, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's nice to like meet people in person and talk to them and kind of like, get a feel from, about a person, whatever. That's cool too. But if you're actually looking for talent, if you're actually looking for good work, it's there. It's on the internet. It's everywhere. There's so many, there is a fucking, it's just like an endless overflowing fountain of artists getting just pumped out every hour of every day. And they're there. You just got to look for them. That's it.
Just type in #comics on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, just open up a browser. I don't know, like go on Instagram and just use the search function, and it's just there. It's all there. And
we gotta start hashtagging our shit, man. That's how these editors are gonna find us.
Yeah, I guess, but it's still like you don't even need hashtags. It's just there's
right.
Yeah, it's all there. Like it's there. I don't understand that. It's like such a weird old timey understanding of the industry. And granted, I understand. And this might be a symptom of that, of how fucking dated comics are as an industry in terms of how they've just been unable to really keep up with the times in any real tangible way, right? Like, I think I was talking to someone else about this online. I think it was Evan Dorkin. I don't know if he listens to the show, probably not, because he hates comics, and I do too, so I don't blame him. But he and I talked about this exact thing. It's just like, there's no other industry really that's as behind the times as comics are. Right? In terms of like running a business. It is so fucking dated. We talked about this a little before about Diamond.
Yeah, with Diamond.
Yeah. Like it's archaic. It's fucking old as shit. It is so impractical. It doesn't work. You're wasting people's time and money. And nobody's bothered to just be like, hey, this doesn't work anymore. Let's try something new. Nobody wants to provide alternatives. And there are alternatives. It's just that companies like Diamond don't want to fucking do that. They're not interested in it. It's run by literal dinosaurs. like fucking ancient ghouls that support the fucking Republican Party. So of course they don't want to change anything. They think fucking social media is some weird millennial conspiracy to take away their guns or some fucking nonsense. It's the dumbest, most frustrating thing, and I'm glad we have a comic so I can fucking shout about that. Anyway, glad we got this podcast. Woo! Yeah. I
actually picked up a Evan Dorkin book. Sad to say, it was a half price books. It was something that he wrote, and it was recent. It was about like this witchcraft school. I forget what it was called, but I just saw his name on the front. He just wrote it. Somebody else illustrated it.
Okay.
But it was recent. I think it said 2018. But yeah, it was like about some kind of like supernatural academy. I don't know. I flipped through it and it was in the dollar bin, so I picked it up because I saw his name.
Yeah. Evan's a good guy. He's I was never really big into his work, but I think that has less to do with him and more to do with me just not being on the up and up about. Are you
talking about like the milk and cheese stuff?
Yeah. I mean, all of his work really, but yeah, milk and cheese, and obviously his work goes beyond that. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff for like TV and whatnot. So, and I'm familiar with that stuff obviously because I'm a fucking dumb American that just watches TV. Or growing up, that's what I did. So yeah, I mean, we've all seen or watched or experienced his work one way or another, I'm sure.
Right. What TV show did he do?
He wrote a couple, I think some like Justice League and Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, okay.
And, stuff like that. Yeah. He's a good dude. Him and Sarah Dwyer are very, very nice people. And it's good to know that in a fucking hell world that we live in this fucking broken industry that we have people that are nice like them and also have just as much hatred for the industry as at least as much as I do, because Evan's on another level with that. So
I hate it, but like I'm in it and I have to look for the good in it. Just because if I don't, I'd really have to start asking myself like why I'm even doing it at that point, because it already feels like I ask myself that pretty regularly.
Right, yeah.
But I've got to look for the silver lining in it. So while I know that it's like a giant scam and like not a viable option, it's like I try to let the good things about it keep me running with it.
For sure, yeah. And there are good things. None of them have anything to do with the pay or the industry as a whole. It's actually everything despite it. Yeah,
it's like everything else besides comics is what makes you want to make comics, and the only way that you can make money in comics is by not doing comics.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yeah, and it's just this land of misfit toys where we're all still doing it and we're all in it. And that's kind of like, I'm at the point now, I'm not even going to sound like, I'm not trying to sound like that I'm like this big deal, but I'm at the point now where it's like people that, compared to 3-4 years ago, these people that I thought were like untouchable and like, super wealthy, like, I see them at shows and now like we follow each other on social media and we say, hey, and, to each other and like, somewhat keep up with one another. And it's, I'm very thankful to be in that position, but then you just realize that, even though I'm way less successful than them as far as like, getting regular gigs for respected publications and so forth, like it's all the same fucking racket.
Absolutely. I mean, like guys like Jim Woodring have like Kickstarters to like pay their bills.
Yeah. It's like, you meet your heroes in this industry and they're pretty much just struggling just as much as you are. They may have it a little easier as far as like being able to dig themselves out of the hole because they have a following, but at the end of the day, they are still in the same fucking hole. Yep.
Pretty much. I mean, there's, there's people out there that are the exception, very few. But if we're being honest, they're probably doing pretty well because of, stuff that isn't comics. It's because it's stuff that's, adjacent to comics or...
Like fucking Ed Brubaker, for an example, he's actually on like an Image Comics exclusive deal, which they don't really do for people.
Right.
And I mean, dude, I love Brubaker. I think he's one of the greatest like noir comic, writers that has ever, lived. And that's a pretty bold statement, but I'll stand by that. I think he's great. But, and his floppies that he puts out, like, he tries to put supplemental material for like the monthly comic buyer in the back. So there'll be like essays on film, and like he'll like talk about what he's doing, and he's always fucking writing TV or doing consulting work for HBO, and it's like that's where that guy's money comes from.
Absolutely. You know how much money you make just doing a script revision?
Yeah, it's like, and it's crazy that like
it's like $30K.
Yeah, it's like
he's fucking bananas.
He's meeting a monthly deadline. He's the writer, but he's meeting a monthly deadline writing these criminal books, and that's not even his main source of income. Like, and at this point, he doesn't even have to do comics. His income, if that, like if that, and it's just he's still in it, so props to him, and I'm a fan. But the fact that he could easily quit and leave it all behind, that says a lot that he's still willing to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
But, I mean, I guess same with like fucking Mark Millar. He's got like 9,000 movies out now, but still pumps out comics. So
yeah, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, because like that's the comics is what got him to the dance, right? Right.
So it's I guess the way he tries his things out.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I can't wait until I eventually try my way into getting to TV or movies or some fucking nonsense, so I can have just some amount of income.
Well, I want to. Even then, like, and I'm not going to name any names, but if you can, I follow a cartoonist Patreon, and this cartoonist has a Netflix original show. We'll just say that. And
is it a show or is it a movie?
It's a show. It's a Netflix show.
Okay.
And on their Patreon, they were talking about how, they were going to make every month, if you subscribe to a certain tier level, you get a book. Like, they're serializing a comic right now. Okay. And they were saying that they were going to make the next issue smaller to cut down on printing costs, because printing at a smaller size saves them $500 a month on shipping, and times are hard. So this cartoonist is talking about having to cut corners on the size of books, because even though they have a Netflix show, money's still tight.
Yeah, they probably blasted through that check.
Yeah, because I would imagine, I don't know how it works, but I would imagine Netflix probably just buys an idea and then they keep all the profit past your initial payday.
I mean, you probably get like some residual paychecks depending on how good your attorney is and the type of contract you're able to fucking get signed up with. But yeah, I mean, if I was in that situation, I would, you get that, I don't know, $300,000-$400K fucking check, and you just blow right through that within a year.
As long as like if I ever get a check that big, I'm just paying off my student loan. So even if I blow it, it's like, worst case scenario.
Oh yeah,
I have no debt.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I would do with that money is go through all my debt, credit cards, student loans, all that shit. Just get it all out of the way, and then I'm gonna get real ignorant.
Yep, I'm gonna,
because that's still like, I mean, shit. If we're talking $400K.
It's a lot of
still a big
lot
chunk
of
extra
change.
Money. Yeah, exactly.
What's really stupid is like everybody in the world, maybe not everybody in the world, but I feel like everybody like daydreams about like what they would do if they won the lottery.
Oh yeah, of course.
This is how fucked up I am. If I won the lottery, I would legit start a publishing imprint that would actually get into big bookstores and like help my friends out and other cartoonists that I like. And that's how fucked up I am, because like I know that would not be a plausible business venture.
No, you'd be losing money. You'd be hemorrhaging money every year.
Yep. Absolutely, but I would just do it.
But you're rich at this point, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, think about how much money Netflix just dumps into the ocean every week on some new TV show or new movie deal, right?
Doesn't even go anywhere.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just does not matter.
Yep.
They're probably so far into debt, but it doesn't fucking matter because they're too fucking big at this point. And so that's what I would want to do. If I had that much money, fuck it. Who cares?
Right.
Buy 10 yachts. Fill them up with comic artists. We'll go to fucking Bahamas. Who cares? It doesn't fucking matter. Let's just watch the world burn at this point. Like, let's get ours and then let's get the fuck out.
There you go. That's selling out, man.
That is. It's buying in.
But there you go. Buying in.
Yeah, so I think that should about do it for tonight's episode, whatever time of day you're listening to this, I guess. You got anything to say, Cam? Go ahead.
So we are looking for emails if you all want to write in. It's gutterboyspodcast@gmail.com. We'll read your emails on the show and chop it up with you as much as we can. Thanks again to Darren for writing in this week. Besides that, just want to thank Buster Moody again for supplying the music. And JB, I think you mentioned, off air earlier, you said Buster has a new Patreon supporting a new book. Is that right?
He does. He has a new book called Laser Storm. And if you want to check out that book and support it so that he can finish the book, please go to patreon.com/BusterMoody, BusterMoody, and throw a couple of bucks his way, and you can check out his book, watch the whole process from beginning to end. It'll actually give you an opportunity, if you are interested in really learning the process and kind of seeing from initial concept to, rough draft, finalized draft, and then you start doing thumbnails, pencils, inks, all that. I would recommend checking out his Patreon then, because you'll kind of get to see that firsthand experience of seeing it form into an actual comic. And also it'll be nice to support an artist who's really, really cool and does a lot of great work and lets us use his music for free, basically, until we start getting money off of this thing.
Definitely. So, thanks again for listening. We made it through our first month, and hope you all have a good week, and we'll see you next week with episode 5.
Yeah, to many more Gutter Gang months. We appreciate it. All right. Stay gutter.